across the hall, down the hall. I had players doing radio interviews. I greased every media person with tickets in this market so that when I needed a favor, and we sold out, I don't know, like 105 straight games, okay, at 7,200.
Nice.
So I actually do know a little bit how to market lower level things. And she doesn't have a clue. They won't spend any money. You think about it, even what are their tickets now?
$13.
$13?
I think a GA is like 10 to 13.
Okay, so $13. If you spend a couple thousand, you got to sell 200 tickets, 150, 180 tickets to get your money back. 180 more tickets and you get your money back on a $2,000 buy. That's it.
I'm just asking.
No, it disgusts the both of us.
I can tell.
When have they been beating our doors down to get Chambers on again? They haven't.
They don't reach out to us at all.
Nope.
Which, okay, because he's difficult to get a hold of. You have to go through like 2 people to get to him.
So I got my second shingles shot yesterday.
Okay.
I'm like, arm is sore and I feel funky. I feel like the same way I did when I got a COVID shot, almost, where I feel like I got a little, something going on. Where I'm just off.
I came from a land down under.
They're tied for 10th in the league. Mm-hmm. Not only that, the little things can be so embarrassing. Like they decided early this year their hashtag was going to be attitude. Well, when you're 13-4, that looks good. When you've lost like 6 of 7 and you lose to the last place team at home, okay, sending out that tweet with the hashtag attitude.
Might need hashtag new attitude.
Yeah. You might just want to delete it for the tweet. Wait till the next game. But hey.
15 seconds.
Paul, J Gun, Johnny, AJC. How the heck are you? Okay, music.
Okay, music.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you, where we ask the question, if there's no football being played this weekend, is it still a football Friday? How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton here on the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Thanks so much for being with us. So is it still a football Friday? If there's
football Friday.
Oh, it's been declared.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I don't know about that. The Pro Bowl?
Like I said, there's no football being played this weekend. It's not even a game. First off, Felipe, it wasn't a game to us while it was still a game the last 10 to 15 years. But those that would say, no, it counts, it's still a game, well, technically they were right. Helmets and shoulder pads, right? Isn't that the minimum requirement?
That is the minimum requirement, David. When you are now wearing flags, that is not football.
Shorts and a jersey does not count.
And, no offense to all the young little kids that are playing flag football. You're all doing a wonderful thing, and go get them. We're not talking about you. So, dads, I don't want those texts saying, my 8-year-old plays flag football and it's real. I got you.
Glad you got that out. And I'm glad you got that out with that voice, too.
I'm like groggy this morning.
Wait. Groggy?
Groggy.
Why?
I don't know.
Just started a little early. I mean,
I had I got a shot yesterday, and it's messing with me.
Okay. Everything all right?
Everything's fine. It was a vaccine shot, and it's messing with me, and I feel a little off. I feel a little groggy.
Okay.
So that's probably where the came from.
Got to admit, if that's what it takes to get that, I may ask if you could get 3 of those a week. Could you do that again? We're ready to go, folks.
What's in this coffee?
Feel like an old school coach is at the front of the room. Are you ready? Absolutely.
That is the voice of an offensive line coach right there. Definitely, David.
Either that or a disgruntled spouse in a marriage, one or the other. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Thanks so much for being with us. I did enjoy, and I understand that people are getting annoyed with him. And by him I mean Aaron Rodgers. They're annoyed. Too much diva for too long. I get it. All right, but I guess he was asked the question about, possible places where he could end up. And somebody brought up the Niners and he said, yeah, I'm not going to San Francisco. I mean, he made it sound as if the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, was on his list before the Niners were. And I'm just trying to figure out, is he still holding a grudge from draft day? Does this go back to 06?
Would it surprise you if he was?
Or 05? Oh, no.
And I'm not sure, David, if the fact that when he said that it very well ties to him not being drafted by them. I'm not sure if you love it, can't get enough of it. I mean, because that even outdoes you in holding a grudge.
Yeah. I mean, although the Niners have caused him a lot of angst, they didn't draft him. All right. And that's where he wanted to go. And so he had to sit for 3 years behind Favre. And the Niners have beaten him pretty regularly in the playoffs. So I could see where the Niners have caused him some angst. But it was just funny. It was like, no, I'm not going to the Niners. Oh, all right. How about Saskatchewan? Are they still in play?
So you'll take the Jets over the Niners is what you're telling me.
You'll take the Rough Riders over the Niners is what it sounds like. Man. So, yeah. Come on. I love a guy who can hold a grudge. Absolutely. Come on. What is it that we like? What is it that sports needs to thrive? What is the oxygen of sports?
Angst.
Thank you. Now, the closer you get to the collegiate level, the more it needs the angst. I mean, college sports thrives on the angst. Without angst, they got nothing. They really do. But I like a little angst in my pro sports. I want grudges. Derek Carr asked last night, hey, your deadline's coming up here in like less than 2 weeks. If the Raiders are having trouble trading you, would you move the deadline? No, that's their problem. He all but said, no, that's their problem.
He was gold last night. Throws it really well and has the line. Have you ever been this hot in Vegas? No, that's why they're getting rid of me. I mean, he was terrific.
He did make a good point, though. It was kind of what Aaron Rodgers hinted at a couple of days ago, in which he said, I hear the Packers are, having meetings talking about the future. It's interesting. I have a no trade clause, and I haven't been invited to any of these meetings. And Derek Carr basically said the same thing last night. He's like, well, they haven't given us permission to talk to anybody. But then again, I have a no trade clause, and I may just have to use it. Which, Derek, we've worked out a trade for you to go to. I ain't going there.
Well, what's the bonus? What's the date that he gets the bonus by? Where it's 40 million or whatever.
It's the 15th. It's 3 days after the Super Bowl, and that's why if he was asked last night, hey, if they're having trouble working out a deal or what have you, are you inclined to move the date? And he's like, no.
Hell no, would have been a better answer.
Right? As he said, that's their problem. No, I'm either getting 40 million guaranteed on Wednesday the 15th, or I'm getting cut or traded. And they can't trade me unless I give the okay. And that's why he's like, so I think it'd be in your best interest to allow me to talk to places.
Which seems to make sense to let him work out the deal.
Well, or at least just have a pretty good feeling about, hey, well, I talked to this team and I talked to this team and I talked to this team. And, I kind of like what they had to say. And, I'm fine if you work out a deal to any of those three places. And then, the organization can make the best deal for them. But, I mean, this is interesting. I mean, they got nothing right now, and they are just throwing him on the scrap heap of life. after a year that went really well also. So it's an interesting, movement here by the GM and the coach.
Right,
and
because you could see them going right in the tank after this because there's nothing there and they weren't good.
Is he the second best quarterback that we think is going to be available? Because we're thinking that we're leaning towards Rodgers is going to be elsewhere. I mean, and we don't think that Lamar is going anywhere else. We think that they will tag him in some way and they all but said, by the way, we'll put the tag on him so that nobody can even talk to him. We're not even going to play the game to try to save a few $1 million. We're just going to exclusively tag him and that's it.
I don't think it's close that it's Carr is the second best quarterback. What do you put Tannehill there?
Well, that's why I'm asking. I mean, some people don't like Derek Carr. Some people view Derek Carr before Cousins had the year that he had this year. What Kirk Cousins, the feeling people had towards Kirk Cousins. And even those that don't like him had to admit, he's pretty damn good this year. All right. But before this year, they were like, man, Cousins will get you fired. No. I can't have Kirk Cousins. I don't care what his stats are in fantasy. I don't care. Don't like him. Well, now that's Derek Carr. A year ago at this time, Derek Carr, leader, put the Raiders on his back, carried them through all the turmoil and what have you, was very eloquent, heartfelt about everything the organization went through, won 5 of their last 6, led them to the playoffs. He was a top 10 quarterback in the league. Bottom of the top 10, but he was the top 10 quarterback in the league.
And now he's become pond scum overnight.
Bum.
At least with Las Vegas.
Bum. Get rid of him. Don't want him.
Now, a lot of what Vegas is doing, we know, is financial. They don't want to pay him all that money, and I get it. But what do you think ends up happening? I think he ends up getting cut because I don't think they're going to get a deal done.
Well, if they don't let him talk to anybody, I definitely think he's going to end up cut because he's not going to approve a trade. If you had a no trade clause and they traded you somewhere, even if you thought, I have to admit, that's not a bad place. But you didn't have the ability to talk to the GM and coach and offensive coordinator of where you were going. Wouldn't you just say no to the deal? I could always sign there as a free agent in an hour. But I'm not going to agree to it now. I'm going to keep my options open.
The contract goes with the trade, though, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. They're going to want to renegotiate. Anybody that gets him's got to renegotiate this deal in record time as well.
Well, right. It's the $40 million guaranteed on the 15th. Yes. That's why there's probably 3 or 4 teams out there that would be willing to take on Derek Carr and the contract. But I'll bet you there's 5 or 6 more that would be very interested if they could get Derek Carr with a blank slate. Oh, we get to negotiate a new contract. Okay. No, we're real interested now. Because they could look at Derek Carr and say, listen, we can work out a 3-4 year thing where you'll make just as much money as you would have made in Vegas, but we'll just structure it in a way where it's a little more cap friendly. What do you say? They're big fella.
So to us, he holds all the cards right now. And they're not even letting him lead.
Not even letting him talk to the dealer. It's kind of like you try to engage in some small talk. Hey, how you doing tonight? And the pit boss comes in and says, you're not allowed to speak. I'm sorry, what? Can I get a drink? No.
And that's where we are with Derek Carr right now. Zip, zilch, nada from the Raiders. And they're barbing words. That makes it more fun.
Like if I said to Bucks fans right now, hey, Derek Carr is your quarterback next year, how would you feel? That's it. That's just that generic. Well, what are the terms? No. Let's just, come on. We all know the general vicinity of what he's going to get paid. Okay? We know what the going rate is for quarterbacks. Hey, Tampa Bay fans, Derek Carr is your quarterback next year. Thumbs up. Yes, no, maybe so.
There it is.
Huh?
There it is. 21,000. Yes, no, maybe so. It's our first one of the day. One day this might be a segment. I'm telling you right now. It's got potential. Miller and Moulton, hoping that we have potential as well right here on the Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. was reading an article in The Athletic. It was just a preseason baseball power rankings, and only 3 of the top 10 were American League. Yeah, this was a shingles one, go Raiders, and I'm just groggy, and I don't know what they said. The second one would hurt, but I'm fine with a little pain. I'm just groggy. And I didn't booze last night, so it's not that.
Mark's getting a big stretch right now. Did some flamingos?
Did something.
Man, I feel like an idiot for not stretching all these years.
You're 21.
Yeah.
But I'm already feeling it on my knees.
Well, you may just sit for too long. That's all.
Played basketball the other day. I felt like I had Dwayne Wade knees.
Well, didn't you say you hadn't played in a while, though?
Right. But I'm starting to play now again. I'm ramping up again. My knees are killing me.
You playing outside on the asphalt?
Yes, sir. On the park.
Rucker?
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes past the hour. Top of the morning to you. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. So I have a question. Do you have a line in the sand when it comes to second/third chances, or is it kind of a case-by-case thing?
It's a case-by-case for me.
Okay. It's fair enough.
I've done enough questionable things that I have to look at each case on its own.
Now, come on now. All right. How many things have you done where if you were a prominent member, like publicly known member of a professional organization, that organization would have to cut you because of what you did?
13?
Wow. You've got a lot more game than I thought. Damn. You sound like the college football fan who's like, I'll tell you, when we were started to lose, we stopped having our guys get arrested. Okay. And now that we got guys getting arrested again, I know we're getting pretty good. No, seriously. Come on. Have you done one thing?
Probably.
Two?
Maybe, but one for sure.
Okay. So I ask because, like Trevor Bauer, the Dodgers came out and publicly the other day said, oh, yeah, it was unanimous, which I have to admit, man, when you listen to the two sides talk, it was as if they're living in two different worlds. I mean, Bauer's side is like, yeah, we were talking to the Dodgers every day. And the Dodgers are making it seem like, fait accompli. We weren't bringing them back. And the Bauer camp's like, yeah, we were talking every day. And we thought we were coming back. They didn't give us any indication we weren't coming back. And the Dodgers are making it sound like they assigned Tony the intern down the hall to just talk to the Bauer camp for 20 minutes every day. Just stall them. Don't tell them what we're really up to. But I mentioned it because Bengals running back Joe Mixon here, who's got a history.
Yes, he does.
Going back to college where
he struck a woman.
Well, let's be honest. Joe Mixon, and somebody pointed this out a few days ago, that the difference between Joe Mixon and Ray Rice is we had video of Ray Rice and we did not have video of Joe Mixon. If we had video of Joe Mixon never would have played in the NFL. In fact, I don't know if Joe Mixon ever would have played another down in college football. But Joe Mixon got involved in an incident in, I think, 2014, and there was no video of it. But he ended up being – but people were able to say, oh, yeah, I mean, he just slugged.
David, there was video of it.
I thought that there wasn't video of him slugging the woman. There was video of him arguing with the woman, but I didn't think there was video of him slugging the woman.
Well, wasn't the college?
If so, then obviously I'm completely wrong.
I thought I thought the bar video had it.
Right.
But he was in college.
Right. So, and he was suspended for a full season in college, and that incident cost him being drafted in the first round. He got drafted in the second round instead. And when it comes to law enforcement, Joe Mixon hasn't been in trouble since, right?
Nope.
Okay, and I'm being told there is video. All right, my bad.
Until now. We're apparently back in January. A few weeks ago.
Apparently the day before they went to go beat Buffalo. And he pointed a gun at a woman and threatened her, obviously. And he's got a year left on it. He's like 25, 26 years old. He's got a year left on his contract. And, whether there's video of this or not, in the day and age that we're in now.
This is two violent acts against women.
Right. And right now, over under how many downs Joe Mixon ever plays again in the National Football League, and the over under is 1.
I would go under. I would. I don't know how you bring him back if you're Cincinnati. You gave him a second chance. He blew that second chance.
And it took him 5-6 years to blow it, because I think he came into the draft when he was 20, and I think he's been with the Bengals half a dozen years. And I'm being told I was wrong. There is video of it. I didn't think there was video of the punch. I thought there was video of the argument. So my bad. Which now, when you look back, by the way, wow.
But I think it didn't come out until a couple of years after it happened, David. I think that's part of what it was.
Gotcha.
I think that the incident happened in 2014, and I think it was a judge released the video, but it was much later when the case was settled. So,
gotcha. Was he already in the NFL, or I don't know? I forget the particulars. But because remember, Ray Rice got a 2-game suspension. And everybody was fine with it. And then the elevator video got released. And Ray Rice never played it down again in the NFL. And so now I will say, sorry, Mark, Mixon's lawyer says this is a complete rush to judgment. He never should have been charged. Okay.
I'm sure that's what his lawyer's going to say.
Right.
That's usually what lawyers say. My guy's innocent. That's why you pay them a lot of money to do that.
Well, sometimes they say no comment, though. Because, I mean, if you pointed a gun at somebody, I mean, there seems to be not a lot of ambiguity there. I mean, you and I look for the gray a lot. But
yeah, there's no maybe so here, David. You've been having fun with yes, no, maybe so. There is no maybe so here.
Doesn't
either yes, he pointed the gun at her, or no, he didn't point the gun at her. And if yes is the answer, ultimately, I think Joe Mixon's done in the league.
I do too.
Done.
I do too, because once again, and sometimes we come off a little flippant when we say this, but sometimes it does come down to, who's going to handle the presser? Who's going to handle the 17 questions back to back to back to back about why it is we signed this guy and we're giving him a second chance? And, do any of you have daughters? Are you married? All of those questions that are going to come. And if you say, well, we're just going to release a statement. Yeah, at some point in time, you're going to have to answer this.
So this is now the biggest story in Bingo land since the loss, and we will find out if Miller and Moulton are close to right on this one, or if Cincinnati will keep on keeping on with Joe Mixon.
And for what it's worth, if they end up deciding to cut him, and he has one guaranteed year left on his contract, it'll cost them between what his salary was going to be and what the dead cap hit will be. It'll cost them over $7 million. Oh, I'm sorry. They'll save $7 million, but he'll still count about $5.5 million on next year's cap. But so I'm just, curious what are the things that you're willing to, allow a second chance for?
Yeah, punching women and guns aren't high on my list of giving second chances.
No, not high on mine. Obviously, we never would have had anything to do with him after the incident that he had in college. But, and remember, the Bengals have given a lot of second chances. All right, even Marvin Lewis. I mean, the Bengals have been known for over a generation. They'll give you a second chance. Now, third chance? Not necessarily.
I mean, they have a Joe Burrow, but they still want that stadium. They don't need bad PR there.
Correct. And maybe they figure, you know what? We can find a running back. May not be as good. We'll just have Joe throw the ball 2 or 3 more times a game. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network.
Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
You saw Mickelson's tweet, right? No?
I don't think so.
Somebody tweeted out, I don't even know who this is. Flushing It is the account. If there was an LIV versus PGA Tour team event right now in a Ryder Cup format with Tiger and Phil as captains, it would be the most watched golf event in history. Phil responds, it sounds great, but we would dominate them so soundly it would be over so quick that TV would have to fill an hour of dead time. That's why it's not happening at this time. I watched some of Pebble last night. McNeil almost got in. He's 47, 48. Hasn't really, plays 2-3 events a year. He almost got in. He was sixth alternate.
Did he fly out there? Or
He might have. When I was with Buck yesterday, I stopped into the office and Buck said he didn't know if he was flying. He was talking about maybe I'll fly out there because he thought he was getting in. But I'm looking at that leaderboard last night. I don't know who any of those guys are, David.
Ah, come on. You know one of the guys tied T5. Aaron Baddeley.
Aaron Baddeley's T5, huh?
Yep.
He's been a stalwart on tour for the last few years.
Sure has. He sure has.
And Spieth played awful.
1 under. Which is the cut line right now.
I mean, Justin Rose is up there on the leaderboard, at least, probably page 2. They were showing him a lot last night.
Yeah, she's like 3-4 under. That course is so short now. I mean, outside of that, those 3 par 4s, 8, 9, 10 there. I mean, that course is not hard for them.
No, unless you play unless the rough's really long.
Unless the wind is blowing off.
And it was yesterday blowing off of the ocean. But not blowing.
Right. Plus the other thing, in February, the course is so soft. And they've had so much rain. Today's the day the music died.
Brady's first Super Bowl.
And Brady's first Super Bowl win. That'll be the day. Had just gone number 1.
Yeah, I figured that was today when I saw that the Big Bopper was trending.
And they talked Waylon Jennings out of not going on the flight. He was originally on the flight. They talked him out of it, and Richie Valens won a coin toss for the last seat. All because the tour bus broke down.
And it was
Sorry. Did you guys see the thing I tagged you in yesterday about Romo?
No.
Yes.
Apparently CBS already tried to, sit down with him and be like, "Hey, you suck." It's like, I disagree. I don't know, Jim.
I don't know, Jim. I don't know, Sean.
It's
I don't
close.
think I suck.
What do you think, Gene?
Oh, this is exactly what they practiced. All right, here we go. Enough Romo.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
It's 22 minutes before the hour. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Thanks so much for being with us. Pat Kirwan will join us at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. We'll talk some pucks. It's the All-Star break, baby. They're in the Sunshine State. Greg Wyshynski. He will join us in the 8 o'clock hour as well. Right now it is time for
The Starting Five. 5 stories you need to know. It's the Starting Five on Miller and Moulton. Here's number 1.
a warrant is out for Bengals running back Joe Mixon's arrest. Allegedly, he pointed a gun at a woman. The day before Cincinnati flew to Buffalo to beat the Bills. Mixon's lawyer says he expects the charges to ultimately be dropped. This is a rush to judgment. He never should have been charged. Okay, we'll see. Mixon has a year left on his contract at $12 million per. If cut, the Bengals would save over $7 million. Raiders quarterback Derek Carr said at the Pro Bowl in Vegas he has no intention of extending his February 15th trigger date. The reason it's being referred to as a trigger date is it's 3 days after the Super Bowl. And if the Raiders don't trade him or cut him, then the $40 million guaranteed counts on their cap. So the thought is they're going to trade him or cut him before then. And he obviously now wants out. So he says, no, I'm not going to extend it.
It's a great Derek Carr's agent did a great job, a great service to him. This almost seems like, how did they miss the details in this? But the date on this is ridiculous and good for Carr's agent.
And a year ago this time, that seemed like a foregone conclusion. Of course, we're going to want Derek Carr on our roster, and $40 million is the going rate. So what the heck? Carr did say he would like to be able to talk to potential trade partners, but the Raiders are not allowing him to speak to anyone. So, of course, by the way, there's no communication going on. I mean, it's not like his agent and agency, they're not talking to any teams about anything. Not any other clients, nothing. No hypothetical conversations. Hey, hypothetically, if you had one of the top quarterbacks available, ... None of those conversations are taking place. Carr did say to the Raiders, if you're going to keep this up, I do have the no trade clause, just so you know. I could just keep going. Nope. No. So we'll see what happens. February 15th is the date. NBA, Bam Adebayo selected to the All-Star game for the Heat. Well-deserved. Oh, I will say, Felipe, 4-foot par putt clap there, that there are, Mark, I think, a lot more deserving All-Stars than there are spots in the All-Star game.
I think that's a fair statement in this game right now.
Because the NBA doesn't do the, hey, you got to have one member from every team. They've got, I think, 12 spots in the East and 12 spots in the West. Well,
I agree. But what usually ends up happening every year is that there's always replacements. Someone always gets injured, and then there's the injury replacement all-star.
Right.
Kind of like Tyler Huntley.
Right. But there's not nearly as many in the NBA as there are in the NFL. But there is an expectation that two of the all-star starters Kevin Durant in the East and Zion Williamson in the West are not going to partake in the festivities. So that will allow one from each side, whoever it is that you think is, can't believe they're not an all-star. Well, then maybe they will be here. Give it a couple days. So Bam with 32 points, 9 rebounds, by the way. But RJ Barrett was actually spotted at a Knicks game. That hasn't happened much lately. He had 30. And the Knicks held off the Heat 106-104. LeBron at 26. Lakers rallied furiously in the fourth quarter in Indianapolis and beat the Pacers 112-111. They were down 14 early fourth. LeBron at 26 points. He is 63 points away from becoming the NBA's all-time leading scorer. He's averaging right around 30 a game. So does he fit it in 2 games, or does he need the start of 3 games from now before he passes Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? By the way, Giannis with 54. Third time he's had 50 this year. Bucks edged the Clippers 106-105. This was Vegas's preseason NBA Finals.
Would the Clippers miss 7 of their last 8 shots, or all 8 of their last 8 shots, and losing that game last night? Yeah. They had all kinds of chances.
Yeah, and had the lead late and let it slip away. But this was the Vegas betting favorite for the NBA Finals. Clippers were actually the lowest odds on the board, and Milwaukee, along with Boston, right there for second lowest odds. Well, tell you what, we get 6 or 7 of those, 106, 105. That wouldn't be bad.
By the 5th or 6th one, some people might actually watch.
Exactly. They're going to sit out the first 4. I mean, Bucks and Clippers. I mean, please. I mean, Felipe, he'll be, at a watch party with him and 8 people. Cavs, this was interesting. Donovan Mitchell got in a fight, got ejected. It was a really close game when that happened. Without Donovan Mitchell, the Cavs put the Grizzlies to bed, 128-113. Chicago beat Charlotte by 16. Man, it's funny that Jordan holds such a grudge against Barkley for saying something about 8 years ago in which he said, Michael just hasn't figured out the whole executive thing yet. And Jordan hasn't talked to him since. Boy, Charles was really wrong about that, huh?
Sure was.
About them Bobcats, Hornets, whatever the heck they are. Dallas edged New Orleans 111-106. You'll love this, Mark. You know how the referees in the NBA have the final 2-minute report, which usually comes out the day later, in which they acknowledge what they got right and what they got wrong in the final 2 minutes of every game? Well, they didn't even wait like 30 minutes last night. And the league and the officials came out and said, yeah, we really stuck it to the Pelicans. We called the turnover on them with 6 seconds to ball when they had the ball. And yeah, he wasn't out of bounds. That shouldn't have been a turnover. That was a steal. And then when time went off the clock and the Pelicans were arguing, hey, the clock was stopped and we lost 2 seconds. You got to put 2 seconds back on. And they didn't. And they came out and said, yeah, we got that wrong too. So it was a good night in Dallas. Luka got hurt, by the way, hurt his heel. Pay attention to that. Mavs beat the Pelicans 111-106. Warriors lost on the road again, Mark. Jokic with his 17th triple-double. 22 points, 14 rebounds, 16 assists. Denver beat him by 17. College hoops, the nation's longest winning streak was snapped. FAU's 20-game winning streak did not survive a trip to Birmingham. UAB beat them 86-77. FGCU lost their 4th in a row. They lost to the last place team in the A-Sun at home. FIU beat Charlotte on the road. Mark, in Jacksonville, it was the River City Rumble.
Okay.
Entire city shuts down. It's like a Jags playoff game.
Right. River City Rumble. That sounds like a good wrestling match.
It really does.
And in Jacksonville, we've got the River City Rumble.
What do you think? That a Tuesday night show? I mean, what does that sound? That can't be a Saturday.
No, Jacksonville's a Friday, Saturday show for sure. You know what? Jacksonville's on Friday, and on Saturday we'll be in the Omni in Atlanta.
No, I knew it was coming. North Florida won the Rumble over JU, 76-63. Stetson beat North Alabama by 22. Women's hoops, FGCU, FIU, Florida State, Florida, FAU, Miami, and Stetson all won. Big win for Miami in double overtime. They're a bubble team in women's hoops. JU lost to FGCU, and North Florida lost to Stetson. Mark, golf, listen, you'll love the leaderboard at Pebble.
It's boy, oh boy. I mean, the PGA Tour's got it going on with this leaderboard. Give it to me, David.
Hank Lebioda.
Yep.
He's 8 under. He has a one-shot lead over 3 golfers who you also have never heard of. Aaron Baddeley, however, is in a group tied for 5th. You've heard of him.
You just hadn't heard from him in 5 or so years.
Right, but you've heard of him at least. And he's kind of at the bottom of the first page of the leaderboard. Jordan Spieth, probably the biggest name in the event, and he's 1 under, which right now is on the cut line. Hey, the Saudi Invitational is going on. No, that's not an LIV event. It's an Asian Tour event. But it's got LIV players in it like DJ Phil, Brooks Koepka, Bryson DeChambeau. But here's the funny thing, Mark. It's also got PGA Tour players in it. Like Cam Young, Cameron Champ, Lucas Herbert, Mito Pereira, Sebastian Munoz. They all got exemptions from the tour to play in this event in Saudi Arabia.
Don't know how those PGA guys can take that money.
Well, it's Asian Tour money, Mark.
Oh, okay. Who's the sponsor?
Well, it's
right.
Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. Just checking.
I think people who sponsor the
Live Tour.
V Tour.
Yeah, okay.
Now they're going to claim it's a different sponsor. It's a different hallway. No. We get our checks to the left on the LIV Tour, but no. We go to the right to get them for this tournament. And one other sports note: Marlins. Tell you what, they're going to arbitration with like 3 players. Now, there was at least a $1.1 million difference between them and newly acquired Luis Arise. But Arise beat him in arbitration, the American League batting champion from a year ago. He's going to make $6.1 million this year. The Marlins had said he's not worth a dime over 5. But the Marlins are going to arbitration with a pitcher over $225,000. I mean,
well, they're up against the cap. Oh, there isn't one.
Don't you just say, hey, how about we split the difference? I mean,
it's not the best look, but it's very Marlins-esque. They are as cheap as organizations come.
Arise, by the way, has 4 years until free agency. So expected to be a nice bat at the top of the order. Marlins trying to improve their offense. They've got the pitching. They need hitting. I do think they've improved the top of their order. Don't know if they've improved the middle of their order, however. And at 10 minutes before the hour, that was
the Starting 5 every weekday morning at this time on Miller and Moulton.
And if you're wondering why no hockey, it's because it's the All-Star break. And everybody's partying in South Beach or close to it.
So Mickelson jumped back on Twitter yesterday.
Oh.
Account called Flushing. It said if there was an LIV versus PGA Tour team event right now in a Ryder Cup format with Tiger and Phil as captains, it would be the most watched golf event in history. Phil replied, "It sounds great, but we would dominate them so soundly, and it would be over so quickly that TV would have to fill an hour of dead time. That's why it's not happening at this time."
Oh, snap. Look at Phil going all wrestler wearing the black hat.
He didn't like it at first, like most of them don't, but now he's back embracing it a little bit.
Once he realized, well, there's nothing I can do or say that's going to change this narrative. So, oh, well, might as well just roll with it. I will say, though, Tiger as captain, Phil as captain, and, I mean, is there any way to have, how about if it ended in a tie, Tiger and Phil decide sudden death?
In
match play. I saw someone else on Twitter that said, how about Tiger against Phil. Okay. Losers tour goes away.
I'm in for any part of Live Golf versus PGA Golf. This is the modern day ABA, WHA, the USFL, all the leagues that you've heard us talk about. This league is there and is continuing to grab players. We all know the purses are outrageous. And I believe at some point they're going to get world golf ranking points.
Although Cameron Smith came out earlier this week and said, I think the world golf ranking is becoming obsolete and they're doing it to themselves.
We'll see how the majors play ball going forward because that's where the ranking points actually matter. Miller and Moulton. Pretty good show lined up rest of the day. Pat Kirwan, Greg Wyshynski will join us in the 8 o'clock hour to talk a little NFL and a little NHL as well. 21,000 is the text line. It is open as always for your comments about anything that may be going on in the show. Thanks so much for listening right here. Miller and Moulton, where else? The Florida Sports Network. Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're gonna have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
Located on the East Trail, locally owned Naples Tiki Bar and Grill is an outdoor eatery next to the Hitching Post Shopping Center. Island-inspired food with a true tiki theme. The best place in Naples to enjoy the beautiful weather in Southwest Florida. The Naples Tiki Bar and Grill offers a great menu for dine-in or takeout. Enjoy our famous pulled pork, huge burgers, and tiki bar cocktails. Don't miss happy hour every day from 3 to 6 and live music 7 days a week. See you soon at the Naples Tiki Bar and Grill, 11498 Tamiami Trail East.
The waterways of Naples are a beauty to behold, and the Bayfront Inn has multiple ways for guests to enjoy the water and have some fun. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone, on 5th Avenue in Naples.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Felipe, you got your pod?
I do not right now, but I can get it in 2 seconds.
Well, you need it for about 7:25.
No, I know.
Okay.
Here we go.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com, asking the hard-hitting questions of the day, like if there's no football being played this weekend, is it still a football Friday?
Football Friday.
Still sounds like it. That's all I know. Hey, today's an anniversary. I mean, there's a few things going on today, but one of the things that took place 21 years ago today, Brady and the Patriots won their first ever Super Bowl. What was a bigger upset to you? What felt like a bigger upset? When the Patriots beat the Rams or when the Giants beat the undefeated Patriots?
When the Giants beat the undefeated Patriots. Because by that point, we had established so much with New England. And that team was so damn good and was scoring at such a high rate that we didn't think they could be stopped. And the Giants did it. And I remember being stunned about Brady winning the first one because the Rams were really good and no one saw it coming. But then we built upon the dynasty that is the Patriots. And I think the Giants winning was bigger. It's a great question, by the way.
The point spread difference, depending on where you look, was anywhere from 1.5 to 2 point difference. The Patriots were either a 14 or 14.5 point dog. And the Giants were, I believe, at kickoff 12.5 to the undefeated Patriots. And the Patriots were, I believe, tied for the second biggest underdog to win the Super Bowl. The Jets, obviously, over the Colts in Super Bowl III, and that line's been documented as anywhere from 17 to 18.5. But I believe the Patriots tied, I thought it was the Chiefs in Super Bowl IV, Mark, who were like 14.5 underdogs to the Vikings when they won. But I believe it's regarded as basically the second biggest upset in Super Bowl history. And the Giants are, when they beat the undefeated Patriots, it's top 5. So, that's why I asked you what felt, because the Patriots' first one is, by point spread, the bigger upset.
And if you think back, no one was giving them a chance.
The only person I remember nationally, there was one person that picked the Patriots, Joe Theismann. And there was also, during the week, they played some sort of video game and what have you. And the video game forecasted the Patriots winning. And everybody said, well, no need to buy that, video game. But this last game, Summerall and Madden did together.
Where Madden said play for OT.
Mm-hmm. Yep, because the Rams tied it with 1.5 minutes to go, and Patriots were backed up after the kickoff, and I think they were inside like their 15, and Madden just said, no, inexperienced quarterback. And the Patriots had scored 17 points on the day, all the points off turnovers. So they had not essentially begun a drive themselves and finished it off by scoring points. Their 2 touchdowns and a field goal all came off 3 Rams turnovers. And believe me, people were not criticizing Madden, for saying what he said.
No, I'm guessing most of us at home were thinking the same thing when he said it. Absolutely. Get this sucker to overtime and hope you get the ball and can kick a field goal.
And the Patriots went on to say, well, basically, we were trying to get a first down to make sure we didn't have to punt the ball back. And then once we got the first down, it was like, well, okay, let's see what we can do from here. And that was the beginning of another legend also. That the kicker. I mean, has there been a kicker who's made more big game-winning kicks in the playoffs than Adam Vinatieri? I mean, heck, the Super Bowl where he kicked 5 field goals for the Colts is like an afterthought. Whatever. Please.
Yeah, it really wasn't Tom at that point. It was defense and a kicker.
Yeah. Remember, he made the kick in the snow to tie the game against the Raiders after the whole Tuck thing. It was a very momentous, historic playoff. That was Gruden's last game with the Raiders. Summerall and Madden's last game was 21 years ago today. But and Tom only retired 48 hours ago.
2AB. 2AB, David.
Unbelievable. Man, oh man. So just 2 poll questions I guess we have today. One, can you have it be a football Friday if you don't have a football game this weekend? And yes, no, maybe so. And then which one felt like a bigger upset to you? It was 21 years ago today that the Patriots dynasty began. The upset of the Rams, the greatest show on turf. And, I mean, you think about the Hall of Famers that they had on offense. I mean, the left tackle, the quarterback, the running back, and Isaac Bruce is already in. And don't we think that Torrey Holt's borderline? He's been a finalist before. He's a finalist again. But, I mean, think about that. And that team lost with 5 Hall of Famers on the offensive side of the ball and scored 17 points.
When everybody had them running it up in the 30s.
So just, trip down memory lane there. 21 years ago today, the dynasty began.
How many, and I hate doing this to you, I should have asked you before, but how many Hall of Famers on the New England team?
Well, and if you were to present, I think, for some of the Patriot players, don't you bring up all the Hall of Famers we shut down in the Super Bowl 21 years ago today? But I believe they have 2 defensively. All right. Ty Law, and isn't Seymour in? Didn't he get in last year?
Yeah.
So I think now.
And then obviously Brady will be one. We know that. But
correct. But offensively, that was pre-Gronk. That was pre them acquiring Randy Moss. So I don't think any of their offensive linemen are going to get in. Now, obviously, their coach is going. But, and I will say, and I think the kicker's going.
I was just going to ask you because I think he's going as well.
Definitely. I mean, come on. He literally won 2 Super Bowls. Final play of the game. Their first 2 championships. He kicked the game-winning field goal. That's after the kick in the snow. Oh, yeah, 5 field goals for the Colts in a Super Bowl win. Oh, I definitely think he's going. So you'll end up with Brady, Vinatieri, 2 on defense, and Belichick. But, you know, they had a lot of good players, though, that were, quote unquote, not Hall of Famers, though. You know, a lot of good players. You know, like Teddy Bruschi, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. Now, I think he's a Patriots Hall of Famer, but I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. There are some that do, though.
But it's pretty close when you look at it in its entirety. Then you look back at that upset. Well, they were wrong about a bunch of players on the New England team being better than they were. We hadn't really seen the Belichick defense. We hadn't talked about it on a national level yet because we're still talking about the greatest show on turf. That was the most important thing in the sport at that time.
And the Rams also, by the way, had a Hall of Fame cornerback in Aeneas Williams. I mean, there was actually 6 Hall of Famers on that team, 5 on offense. Well, 4 now, but I think Torrey Holt's getting in, is what I'm saying. Whether it's this year or what have you, I think he's getting in. I think ultimately when it's over, you'll have 5 on offense and you'll have 1 on defense. And they lost. And that was pretty much the end. I mean, they had a good year 2 years later, and Carolina went into St. Louis and beat them in the divisional round of the playoffs in overtime. But the Patriots began theirs and ended one that would have been called one if they had won their second in 3 years.
And we certainly thought they were building one. If you think back that this was not going to end after that year, they were going to win that game against New England, and they were coming right back.
Yeah.
They had taken the league by complete storm.
Absolutely. Yeah, for 3 years, it was just, you know, they were playing video game football, all the points they were scoring. No stopping them. It's funny how that works. That's why, you know, I keep bringing up with Mahomes in Kansas City. Andy Reid's a Hall of Fame coach. Mahomes, I think we'd all bet right now he's going to end up in Canton. Certainly Kelsey's going to end up in Canton. It's an amazing run they've had. 5 straight conference championship games. 3 trips to the Super Bowl in the last 4 seasons. That's unbelievable. You can count on one hand the teams that have done that in the history of the league.
And right now, it is, you know, I mean, obviously the line's a lot closer in this game, but the Eagles have a bunch of guys that we're seeing develop.
Yeah.
If you were to draw the similarities, here are the Eagles coming out of nowhere, so to speak. Last year making the run to get into the playoffs. This year continuing it.
Eagles with a young offense outside of Kelsey, but an old defense in a lot of places. And if not old, on expiring contracts. I mean, most of that defense is a free agent here coming up in a month. So we'll see how the Eagles keep it together as well. But they do have a young offense which should stay together.
But they win a week from Sunday. Guys then go get paid. So that defense will look very differently.
So 21 years ago today, Brady, Belichick, the Patriots dynasty began. We stopped using first names for guys 21 years ago tonight. Bigger upset. Patriots over the greatest show on turf, or 6 years later, Giants beating the undefeated Patriots. Miller and Moulton. Thanks so much for listening. Play of the Day is next, Florida Sports Network.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're gonna have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
I mean, Mark, it's like one of the best football teams ever. They lost.
So was the greatest show on turf.
That's true, but I don't know.
We go after Steph Curry being a hypocrite.
Huh?
Oh, he wanted a affordable housing project, but he didn't want it anywhere near his house. Went and sent a letter. Uh-huh. But in Steph Curry, housing comes up as one of the
I'll look into it. Here we go.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Pat Kirwan has spent all week in Mobile, Alabama at the Senior Bowl. Practices, I believe, have wrapped up. I think today's a big charity day. Maybe some light workouts take place today, and then the game takes place over the weekend. So Pat has seen 3 days worth of workouts, and you know how he zeroes in on the position groups. So we'll talk a little league at large, but also we'll get his thoughts on some guys who we may be hearing more of in about 2.5 months with Pat Kirwan at the top of the hour.
The other thing we get from Pat here at the Senior Bowl is where there's a heavy load at a position or a position group. You start finding out where there's some depth at positions and seeing what's there for the draft. So always good to talk a little Senior Bowl with Pat, although he's nervous about the Senior Bowl because the NFL Network has got the East-West Shrine game. They're into that. They think they may lose players. It's changed a little bit how the coaching has gone for this game. So a little bit of time of flux between what's going on at the Senior Bowl and the East-West Shrine game for all you college football fans to keep an eye on.
Well, there is no doubt that the NFL sometimes does not adhere to the rule of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, they're always tinkering. I guess that's how you get bigger and better, right? I mean, sometimes you screw up, but if you keep tinkering, although I don't know, Mark. I mean, golfers are always tinkering with drivers and putters. I mean, you know, at the end of the day,
I mean, come on, Tiger Woods at the height of his game changed his entire golf swing
twice. That was before he had to change it for injuries, but yes. But now we asked, you know, an informal poll question last segment. I'll ask you, because I don't play anymore, if you could spend your next life, are you going to tinker with drivers and putters, or are you pretty much going to stick with, quite frankly, you know, just obviously technology will have you buy a different driver, but you know what I mean. Light, heavy, 9 degrees, 10.5 degrees, that sort of deal. And think about what we putted with when we first started picking up the game. And then how many putters we go through. And what do we end up always doing?
going back to the first one.
So if
wherever that first love was with the putter, David, you go back to that first love.
So if we had to do it over again, would you be a tinkerer? Or would you just stay with, you know, the old standby?
I'm pretty much a stay with the old standby guy, and there's a reason for that. Golf clubs are expensive.
They are that. They are that. It was easier to tinker a generation or so ago.
It really was.
You know, I don't know about you, Mark. We used to bet clubs. Like I lost my zebra putter once. I had to win it back. Okay.
Wait a minute. You bet your putter?
I did.
You're a degenerate. I am so impressed right now.
I was losing to someone I should not have been losing to. And then he drained like a huge putt for birdie to, you know, win the particular bet. And so I, of course, pressed because, you know, that's what you do. But I didn't have the money on me to press. And he knew that. And so he said, well, you know, what am I going to win? And he's like, no, you're not going to owe me. We, you know, at the end of the day, it's walk
a cash game. Right. Exactly. Right. I want Venmo out here for crying out loud.
So it's like the poker game in which you go, fine. You take your watch off and you throw it in the middle of the pile. Fine. Here, I'll raise you. And so I said, fine. Okay. I'll tell you what, you know, 9 more. We'll do the zebra putter on my end. And if I win, we're even. And that guy hammed and egged and beat me. So I had to, you know, just chase after him for months to finally play again. And he said, I'm going to have to be like over $100 down to put the putter back in play. And so I said, okay. So I eventually got him over $100 down. He had to put the putter back in play, and there you go. I went 3 months later, I had the putter again. My grandfather didn't talk to me till I got the putter back. He was furious with me.
I can see where your grandfather, who probably bought that putter for you, would be upset that you gambled that putter away.
Yes, he was. As a matter of fact, he was.
How long did you go without telling him?
We played a round of golf 2 weeks later, and he's like, "Where's your putter?" And I go, "I just haven't been playing well. I'm putting well with it lately. I just figured I'd switch." And he just kind of looked at me. All right. And then, like a week or so after that, he finally was like, "Seriously, where's your putter?" Tony has it. I'm sorry, what? Yeah.
Lost it in a bet.
Yes. And I was like 16 too. I mean, so he's thinking his only grandchild is really going down the wrong path here. That was the Ray Floyd zebra putter, man. That was
hot.
I felt like it was
a cross-handed zebra, David.
I thought it was like the most iconic club in the game at the time. I know some thought the Bullseye Titleist putter was, or the Ping putter, but to me, the Ray Floyd zebra putter was. I mean that. No, to me, it was the most expensive bottle of wine you left on the shelf and you never opened. And I lost it basically in a card game. In my grandfather's eyes, right.
Miller and Moulton, time now for our Clutch Vodka play of the day. I have no idea today, David. None whatsoever. I saw him doing a little work over there. I'm hoping we got something good. I'm 99.9% sure it's basketball because that's all that was played last night. So, Felipe, what do you got?
Well, you're right. It is basketball. To the NBA we go. I'll tell you what, man. When Anthony Davis is healthy, he is a force to be reckoned with. He was clutch on both ends of the floor. He had a bucket last night. Had a block, game-saving as well. Here's the audio.
Ruff stops, had a shot if he wanted. Instead, it's in very deep. AD scores! Anthony Davis! Tyrese Halliburton trying to work one-on-one. Over. Blocked by Davis! We got a whistle. No, we don't. Lakers have it. Look at AD. He's fired up.
He is fired up. Plays on both ends of the court, and that's our Clutch Vodka play of the day. That's Clutch with a K. Check out Clutch Vodka wherever you buy your spirits. Look for it at clutchspirits.com and hashtag all of your drinks with the hashtag Clutch Spirits.
They're a much better team when he plays.
It's funny how that works.
Right.
Funny how, one of the top 20 players in the game, when he's healthy, along with one of the other top 20 players in the game, how much better they are.
That's all sports really is, isn't it? Just whoever can stay the healthiest.
Yeah, a lot of sports. Yeah, especially in the modern era. Lakers just a game out of the play-in, by the way, for what that's worth.
And 4 games out of probably 5th in the conference.
Let's see, do some quick math there. Wow, Mark, you said 4 games. They're actually 3 games behind Dallas and the Clippers for a tie for 4th.
Okay.
That's unbelievable.
That's if absurd. One team in the West goes on a run, where they, some team gets hot and wins 10 of 12, they can change that whole conference around right now.
Pelicans have lost 10 straight. They were top 3 for months.
Yes, they were. Listen, I said it earlier. If you're in the Western Conference, I think you go for it this year. I mean, come on now. Denver, Memphis, Sacramento are the top 3 teams in the West right now. You seriously not going to go for it this year if you're in the West?
To me, it's a lot of what Toronto's going to do because those are the 2 players everybody's talking about.
Siakam,
yeah.
Well, and OG and even I've seen 3 different
Van Fleet, right?
3 different Raptors being talked about being traded. It's whether or not they're going to rip it down or not.
The West is sort of like the NFC. It's wide open.
I like that.
And I think it's more wide open than the NFC.
Yeah.
But I don't mind the comparison, but I think it's even more wide open because I think we all thought Philadelphia and San Francisco were, and maybe even Dallas to a lesser extent, were head and shoulders above the rest, where right now a team that's in the play-in could end up in the conference final.
Denver's the best team in the West, by the way.
And they need to get defense. They need to pick up a defender.
And I think the Clippers are saying, Felipe, hold my beer. Miller and Moulton. Thanks so much for listening. Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're gonna have to go around and get it.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
It really is unbelievable that Jokic is probably going to win his third consecutive MVP. Once again, Larry Bird-esque. He's now averaging a triple-double, by the way. Yeah, he's like a charged up McHale. Just see what OK Music said.
I did.
I mean, look, man, he does it all. That's all I'm saying. He has a Hall of Fame career already. And he's only getting better. It's ridiculous. There's a 5-way MVP race right now in the league. NBA is...
Do you ever feel like you're having conversations with yourself sometimes?
I do.
Okay, just wondered.
I do. I think out loud a lot, Mark. I think you know this already. DC, how about we call it a mix of both? Or neither, and he's just Jokic. Whatever, Heidi, look at me. I'm 22. I'm 22 and I pay for League Pass. I mean, I'm like the ultimate NBA fan. Yeah, I mean, this is the time of the year to get all the, football downtime. This is the time to capitalize. Those Saturday primetime games do really well. Or, I mean, the matchups are really well. I don't shut up, I know.
Not for 5 minutes
No.
of you just talking incessantly. Just chill, dude.
Sorry.
I want him to be him, but sometimes you got to just breathe. It was 5 minutes on the NBA. That's we're good.
Here we go.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"22 minutes before the hour. Pat Kirwan to join us at the top of the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Thanks so much for being with us. Kicking around a few things today. So apparently it is a football Friday, even though we have no football.
It's a football Friday.
How?
I don't know.
Are you just clinging, holding on?
Every Friday's a football Friday in my world.
Even in 3 weeks? Even in 13 weeks?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me ask you this. 13 weeks from now.
Let me see. Quick math. 3 months from now, that'll be early May.
Will we do more NFL football segments than we do any other sport in that show?
Whoo-wee! The draft will have just come and gone, but we'll be, a full week removed from it. It'll be close. It'll be close. You know how we roll. We'll be in the NBA and NHL playoffs. Baseball will be a month old. I'm sure the LIV and the PGA Tour guys will still be sending nasty tweets about one another. And Patrick Reed will probably be accused of cheating again. So, we'll have a lot on our plate.
I was reading a little baseball stuff yesterday. And it is interesting. We talk about the shift of power in the NFL, the shift of power in the NBA, and it looks like there's a little bit of that same shift of power right now in baseball.
Really?
I was just looking at some power rankings, if you will, but of the top 10 teams, of the top 9 teams, rather, you only have 3 American League teams listed on one of these power rankings I was looking at. Now, you've got Houston, who's ranked number 1. You've got the Yankees, who are 2. And you've got Toronto, that's 8. It just, when you look at the Phillies, who went to the World Series last year, and they're not picked to win their own division, and they may be picked to finish 3rd by some people in their division.
And that's where they finished in that division last year. Well, I will say this. Like, of the teams that made the playoffs last year in the National League, we do this in football all the time. And we usually have 2 or 3 teams that we can easily replace teams with. You tell me who made the playoffs last year in the National League who's going to miss it this year. Braves, Mets, and Phillies all made it out of the East. Dodgers and Padres made it out of the West. Cardinals won the Central. You tell me which one of those 6 doesn't make it this year. I mean, does somebody new win the Central? Because
possibly. I mean, the Brewers are right there.
Yeah, they are.
They're very close to where St. Louis is. So,
yep. Now the Cubs will be better, but I don't think they're winning the division better. But that's just it. By the way, you mentioned one team. It's not like there's 2 or 3 teams in that division that you think could take the Cardinals down. We don't think the Cubs can, the Reds can, or the Pirates can. I mean, the Nats and the Marlins ain't finishing ahead of Mets, Braves, Phillies. Okay. And out west, you got Rockies, Diamondbacks who you can push to the side. So do the Giants have another season out of nowhere? Remember, they missed on almost every free agent they went for, and they were a 500 team a year ago.
And the Padres have continued to spend and acquire players and are seemingly better again this year than they were a year ago.
So this would be like, and sometimes we do this, Mark. I mean, listen, let's face it. We've done it in college football now for a half a dozen years in which we think at least 3 of the 4 teams who made it the year before are going to make it again. Who's going to make the playoff this year? Well, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to go Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Clemson.
So I just looked, and it's actually only 3 of the top, on this particular article, 3 of the top 10 teams are American League teams. 7 of the top 10 are all in the NL. That's all. I just found that to be, is there a shift of power going on in baseball right now where the National League is that much more dominant than the American League?
Well, it could be the same thing as the NFL right now, where we look at teams and quarterbacks and go, boy, is the AFC loaded. And congratulations to the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles.
Exactly. Because Houston still on paper is the best team in baseball. Even with losing Verlander, their starting pitching's really solid. Their bats are ridiculous.
That whole tanking thing they did, by the way, 10 plus years ago, that worked. And for the record, they tanked well. They cheated and they tanked, okay, and they spied on people, through computers and everything. I mean, they did it well. It's awesome. Way to go, guys. They've made the playoffs, what? Since 2015, they've made the playoffs like 7 out of 8 years. I don't know. That seems pretty good to me.
Not too shabby, David. Not too shabby.
Went to 3, 4 World Series, won 4 World Series, won a couple. That seems pretty good. I don't know. I think most of us would take that. Would you take it, by the way, if your organization was known as a bunch of cheaters?
Probably. I mean, at the end of the day, when it's your team, it's really easy to point the finger at the Astros and call them cheaters. And
right.
Because none of you are Astros fans.
Right.
But if it were the Yankees or the Boston Red Sox, 2 teams that may or may not have cheated at one time or another, I didn't see it affecting their fan base all that much. So I think inside your own house, win, baby. They're just trying harder. Houston's played an us against the world mentality ever since, with their fan base as well.
And they've won.
I'll say this, though. If we're right about how half the National League is basically, I mean, come on, you realistically cannot see 7 of the 15 teams in the National League make the playoffs. I mean, come on. Marlins, Nats fan. I mean, listen, we'd have to check your medication if you think you're making the playoffs. Is it possible with the Marlins? Sure. They've got good pitching. But they have the worst offense in Major League Baseball. I mean, at some point, you got to score some runs.
Well, like in the Central, Reds and Pirates have 0 chance. Where are you going to go?
I mean, this year they have zero chance. Actually, a bunch of, they've got prospects and the whole deal, but probably 2025 is the next time that we can think about one of those two teams making the playoffs. And then, sorry, Arizona and Colorado, it's too far-fetched. So there's 6 of the 15 right there. You think no chance of making the playoffs. That leaves 9 for 6 spots with just a chance. And then we dig down. Cubs, really? I mean, it would be it might be a top 3 Cubs Cinderella season of all time if they even snuck in as a 6 seed this year. It basically comes down to, is Milwaukee or San Francisco going to knock one of the 6 from last year out?
And it would be a bigger surprise if San Francisco did it, given the fact, who didn't they not get this offseason? They went after Aaron Judge, failed. Correa, they failed. I don't think they did anything to make their team better from a year ago. Took a couple of big swings and missed on both. One for medical reasons, one they just were never getting them.
American League, meanwhile, let's face it. First off, the Central is just, who knows what you're going to get out of Central. You know that the Guardians are going to pitch, honestly, and otherwise you have no idea what's happening in the Central. So you can make a case for the Twins, you can make a case for the White Sox, and probably can't make a case for the Royals and the Tigers because they went backwards last year. I mean, out west, I know you got Houston.
And then you got Seattle.
Yeah.
And Seattle's expected to do big things this year. They are. They are, I don't want to say playoff or bust, but yeah, they're pretty much in a playoff or bust mode. They think that they're a playoff team.
The Angels are all in because this could be the last year that they have Trout and Ohtani together with Rendon. All right. Texas has spent about $1 billion in free agency the last 2 years, so they'll be much improved. And the East, you could see, 3-4 teams there in which you think, I don't know if the Orioles can duplicate what they did last year because they added literally no one this offseason. Literally they went and signed one middle-of-the-road pitcher. It's the most quiet offseason pretty much them and the White Sox did. It's like they gave everybody a vacation.
The Orioles think that they've got enough in their system that they were bringing guys up and can be competitive. We'll see.
That's their stance. They're being cheap. That's what they're doing. They're not investing at all. They're not even trying to be contenders in 2023.
Well, there are lots of stories about the financials in Baltimore and a lot going on with the Orioles in that market right now.
Listen, we did this a year ago in which somebody did the research on what a major pro sports city has financially, economically, in order to thrive. And Baltimore, quite frankly, doesn't make the cut. Of all the major cities that had, and Green Bay is obviously the exception, you just push it to the side. But of all the major cities in this country that have a major professional sports franchise, it was very obvious that how, over 20 plus years, things happen. People move, companies get up and leave, close, etc. Baltimore doesn't make the cut to have as many teams as they have. And they're down to 2. So now the Orioles ownership has continuously said, we're not leaving. But there are a lot of people that said, listen, if they were to reconsider, they would make a ton of money moving.
And we still have Nashville sitting out there.
Portland, Vegas. You know what was interesting? The Athletic is doing a deep dive on where the next 2 Major League Baseball expansion franchises are going to be, Mark. And they talked to a lot of people in Montreal. And the folks in Montreal, you know how we totally discounted as a laughable idea the whole split season thing with the Rays?
Right.
Apparently Montreal was all in on it. And they were absolutely convinced that it would not only work, but it would thrive. And when Major League Baseball, and apparently Major League Baseball kept saying, yeah, no, we're with you. And then when they pulled the rug out from under it so suddenly, apparently now the money folks in Montreal who wanted to bring Major League Baseball back have said, I got to be honest with you, I think we're like St. Louis with the NFL. I think we're done.
So there's a couple of cities that want teams. We got a couple of stadium issues to get through. But
And
Baltimore is on this list now. You have to at least acknowledge that things are not what they once were in Baltimore.
Well, also the new mayor, I think it's mayor, maybe it was the governor, because like the Camden Yards lease is up after this year and didn't get renewed. But there's a pledge of like a $600 million partnership to, I don't know, make upgrades, I guess.
To not only the stadium, but the area
around it, right. And
that's why they didn't want to sign a 5-year extension on this lease. They want what they think could come with it.
Right. I got to admit, though, if I'm a city and a state, yeah, I'm sorry. I need a signature on a piece of paper that you're contractually obligated to stay here beyond 2023. I mean, I'm sorry, I do. It's the city of Baltimore. I don't know if you know anything about our history, but we had a football team get up in the middle of the night and move to Indianapolis. So if it's okay with you, I know you're staying. No, I know. You love Baltimore. You're never going anywhere. If you could just sign this little piece of paper here, just making it so that legally obligated, you can't call a moving company. I'd really appreciate it.
Is baseball not better when the Orioles are good, though?
I don't know anymore.
I feel like they're one of those teams, though.
Really? That's interesting because they've been good for about 4 years in your lifetime. And I'm not being flippant. Buck Showalter had like a 2012 through 2015, nice run. I think they made the playoffs 3 out of the 4 years. But in your lifetime, Felipe, it's the only time that the Orioles have been good.
Well, my dad grew up a Cal Ripken fan, Cal Ripken Jr. So there it is.
Camden Yards.
And Camden Yards is a beautiful
It is.
area.
Yep.
Just the ambiance of it is
okay.
Very nice.
There you go. The emotional ties once again.
It's a lovable stadium.
It is that. Got Boog's food out in right field. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There's nothing small on Boog's menu.
Nor should there be. It's a big dude.
Probably a lot of fried stuff, David. Right up our alley.
I say. It's a reason right there to keep the Orioles in Baltimore, Mark. The ribs.
Miller and Moulton.
Crab cakes.
Always wanting ribs and crab cakes. Right here. Where else? The Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K.
Located on the East Trail, locally owned Naples Tiki Bar and Grill is an outdoor eatery next to the Hitching Post Shopping Center. Island-inspired food with a true tiki theme. The best place in Naples to enjoy the beautiful weather in Southwest Florida. The Naples Tiki Bar and Grill offers a great menu for dine-in or takeout. Enjoy our famous pulled pork, huge burgers, and tiki bar cocktails. Don't miss happy hour every day from 3 to 6 and live music 7 days a week. See you soon at the Naples Tiki Bar and Grill, 11498 Tamiami Trail East.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. e-motorcycles. Check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're gonna have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Good morning.
Well, good morning.
Good.
How's your week been?
Really good. The weather is fine. We got every practice in so far, which is always the most important part. And everybody was in pads for 3 days. Today is kind of an easier day for them and for us. We're going to do a lot of interviews today because we're set up over at the convention center where all the players are coming and going. We'll probably interview enough guys to use for 3 weeks, but good. How about you guys?
Good.
Yeah, not bad. My mom's been in town. She got in town. She took the train, Pat.
That's the second time.
Yep, from Newark, 18 hours. She got here Monday morning after the show.
But she likes it, doesn't she?
She loves it. Yeah. So she's actually done it 3 times now. This is the first time she actually bought the private cabin with the bed and what have you.
18 hours.
Yep.
Right.
Instead of a 2-hour flight.
I know. That's exactly what I said to her. Not only that, I offered to pay for it. She's listening right now. All right.
And the other part of it is
loves it.
The wintertime blizzard. You're on a train and you're plowing right into something. I wouldn't want to take that risk. James Brown loves the train.
Does he really?
He never flies back home to Washington ever. He always takes the train. Loves it.
Well, I will say it's, the Acela is like 3 hours from New York City to DC. I mean, that's not bad. It ain't 18.
Well, again, he likes it. So if you like it, I told you how powerful he is. I remember telling you guys once. He called the guy at Penn Station, the Acela line, and said, "We're running into overtime. I'm sure you could do a quality control check of that train." And they held it for him.
That's outstanding.
Yeah, I told him that's the most powerful thing I've ever seen.
That's
a guy who could call and get a train to wait at Penn Station for him.
That's fantastic.
Yes, he goes, "We were due for a check. You know what? We'll do it now." Hey, how many hits is Romo taking right now?
Woo-wee.
Tony. Hey.
Pat, is it not unbearable to watch?
I don't listen to any of those guys. I have no sound. I turn the sound off when I'm doing the games because I don't need them to tell me what's going on.
That's true.
Watch it. So I just think they're all overrated, honestly. And I also feel that the producers get way too deep involved and they all think they know what the guy should be doing. I always tell guys, be careful of your producer. He's going to tell you to do stuff you shouldn't do. But producers most of the time think they're the show.
I'll be curious. There was a line in Marchand's story today in which he almost tried to lure Nance into it like saying, well, it started out well with Phil Simms too, and then it didn't end well. Well, it started out well with Romo, and it's not ending well. I mean, it was almost like implying that we should drag Nance into this also. So
what's the universal issue here?
so that'll be interesting.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Third and final hour of Miller and Moulton in Lake City and surrounding areas, Tampa, St. Pete, Port Charlotte to Venice. Greg Wyshynski to talk about the NHL All-Star Weekend, which is in Florida this weekend. Panthers playing host. We'll talk pucks in a little more than 30 minutes time. Pat Kirwan, kind enough to join us once again, courtesy of Pinchers. He does so from Mobile, Alabama, the site of the Senior Bowl. Pat, you've been there since Monday afternoon. You've watched 3 full days of practices. How has Senior Bowl week gone?
Well, if you know what you're coming for, it's terrific. You're coming here for mid-round picks. Hopefully some seconds, definitely thirds and fourths. And if you're really a gold miner, you're thinking you're going to hit it in the 5th round. Pete Carroll always talks about getting Woolen, the 5th round cornerback that should have been an all-pro in a lot of people's minds. So there's good talent in the middle rounds. I was talking to Stephen Jones about it yesterday, and he said, yeah, we're not really here for the 1st round. It'd be nice. There'll be a couple. Usually there's 6 or something like that. It's the Senior Bowl, so the underclassmen can't play in it. And consequently, the high 1st round picks, which are typically the younger guys, are not here. But it's got plenty of gold nuggets in the offensive line. That's the group I usually start off with because historically, the Senior Bowl offensive line is where the real good players are.
Well, as you start preparing for the draft, is that the hottest position group, or is that just where you've spent the most time?
I start there because, first off, there's a lot of them. Secondly, I do believe that you're going to find the players that you want. And this year did not disappoint. There's a couple of guys. DeJuan Jones, the Ohio State tackle, he was phenomenal on Tuesday. And he's athletic enough. First off, did you see his wingspan? I don't think I've ever seen this. And I've been here 33 straight years. His wingspan is 7 feet 3 inches, I believe. So when he sticks his arm straight out, it's 7 feet 3 inches. He's got terrific feet. He played right tackle at Ohio State because they have a 1st round draft pick left tackle, but most of us believe he can play left tackle. And I would think that he's going to be hard to pass up in the 1st round. It's 6'8", 375 pounds and looks pretty good. I interviewed him. He was terrific. I love the center from Minnesota. I think that guy went from a 3rd round pick to the bottom of the 1st round.
Ooh.
Schmitz, he's a terrific football player. He's the best center in the draft, and he is here, and he's got more than just skill. He is a leader, and he's got the respect of everyone here, every coach, every player. So there's 2 right off the bat. The kid from North Dakota State, Mock, he's another guy. He's a tackle in college. They moved him to left guard here. He can play tackle. Extremely physical, and anyone who's running this G scheme where they pull the left guard to get in front of the power play, here's your man. So probably 2nd or 3rd round for him. So there's those kind of guys all over the place. I love it.
If you were advising a quarterback, would you advise him to come to a Senior Bowl? Because they got to come in, they get thrown an offense and some terminology that maybe they don't have, any remote experience with, and a bunch of players they haven't played with. Would you advise a quarterback? Because I think Levis needed to show up to one of these games, East-West or the Senior Bowl. I think if you're not one of the guaranteed quarterbacks, that you need to show up at one of these. Would you advise quarterbacks to come to this, or is this too much of a crapshoot?
No, I would definitely have him here, and I'll give you some historical notes on that subject. I told Carson Palmer to come here. He'll end up being the 1st pick in the draft, and he was phenomenal. Baker Mayfield came here and put to bed, and the perception of him changed into 1st round, top of the 1st round. Donovan McNabb came here as an option quarterback and left as Philadelphia's choice. So I can give one after another of good things that happened. And then there's a lot of guys that came here as fourth-round pick quarterbacks and landed up getting drafted higher. Colin Kaepernick came here. Russell Wilson came here. And most of those guys played well enough in this week. Everyone knows the problem with coordination of receivers and everything else, but they came and they showed they could throw the ball. The NFL, all you have to do is go to the 3 practices and watch these quarterbacks, the ones that can throw the deep out, and then you interview them. It helps all of them. So I don't understand why that Kentucky kid didn't come here. He would have been by far the best player. The quarterback group is not very good. He would have just stood out as a thoroughbred and absolutely put his name in the battle with the other 2 quarterbacks in the first round for a higher spot.
Is there any of the quarterbacks there that have turned your head? You said the group's not very good on a whole, Pat, but is there anybody that is improving their draft stock this week?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of guys that have gone from undraftable college free agents to 6th rounders and 5th rounders. But so everyone here has been talking about Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy was the first alternate for the Senior Bowl last year, and nobody got hurt and no one turned him down, so they never brought him in. And Jim Nagy and I talked about that. So he went as Mr. Irrelevant. If he had come here and demonstrated the skills that we now witnessed, he would have gone in the 5th round. He would have gone in the 4th round. So are there guys in that case? The one guy is I like the Shepherd College kid. He's working out in Fort Myers. I've been watching him when I go over, and maybe we'll all go over and watch his workout. I know a couple guys are going to work with him, but that guy has a nice release of the football. He's pretty athletic. And I think he's gone from Shepherd College, who's that kid, to like a 5th round pick.
Well, quite frankly, who is that kid and where the heck is Shepherd College?
Well, his dad is here. He's a national arm wrestling champion. You could ask him. He'd probably break you in half for not knowing where he's from. Shepherd College, no idea where it is, but he's here. And I got a chance to meet with him over in Fort Myers at their workout facility. So I was familiar with a lot of things about him. And when he gets here, the first thing you notice is he's got an arm. It's lively. He can reach all the points on the field that you throw, which is always a good idea. He's a self-corrector. He was having a little bit of trouble on Tuesday with the out route to his left. I got him on the air and said, it didn't look very good. What are you doing about it? And there I am, sitting with guys that are quarterback coaches. Rick Neuheisel was with me, and Rick loved his answer of what he was doing wrong. And he went out and corrected it on Wednesday. It was terrific. So he's coachable. He's big enough, 6'2" and about 220, and he can run, and he's got a lively arm. So, he told me, this one's for your point on Shepherd College. He put his name in the portal after his junior year just to see where he would stand. And he got invites from 3 big schools, and then he decided to return to school. But he said, I didn't know people even knew me, and he got, yeah, we want you. So he threw for over 5,000 yards 2 years in a row here. You see how he does.
Tyson Begent, I believe, is who you're talking about.
By the way, Shepherd College just changed their name to Shepherd University. Okay, they're in Shepherdstown, West Virginia. They're a D2 school. They're the Rams.
He's got a helmet that looks like the LA Rams, so maybe it's a subliminal message to the Rams. You need a young guy on your staff here. But anyway, those are the kind of stories that can happen here. And maybe not everyone feels like I do, but when you look at him, people thought that the Fresno kid, Hayner, is going to be the one that they'd like, but this is a bad group. I think it's going to be tough for the receivers to show what they can do. As we always worry about the quarterback, the receivers kind of need a guy that can throw to them. I'm not expecting big performances in the game on Saturday.
Well, I didn't watch a second of the Pro Bowl. I'm guessing you did not as well, but Derek Carr making a little news with some comments, and maybe that's why I'm leaving here, but also saying I'm not going to extend the date right now. I mean, he has all the cards in this situation, doesn't he, Pat?
Absolutely, all of them. And he knows when I see him talking like he is, with a big smile on his face is how I perceive it. His agent already knows where he's going. Let's have those things work. And all he has to do is say February 14th. No, I'm not doing any restructures. His job is not to get the Raiders draft picks. And people sometimes think he owes it to them. He doesn't owe them anything. Take it easy. I'm out of here. So I would think he'll be out, and then he's going to get a job real fast.
Do you think that the Raiders are not handling this well? That you think that they could have said to Carr, listen, tell us where you want to go, but let us make a deal so we can get something. Okay. I mean, Carr is saying that there has literally been no communication from the organization to him. And since he has a no trade clause that he'd have to waive, I mean, the Raiders have to talk to him if they want to get something for him.
Well, I think they already know he's not going to listen to him. It's not vindictive. It's just he wants to go out. He doesn't need them to get a deal. They need him to get compensation. And there's no reason for him to do it. And nice guy. They wrote that contract with no expectations they'd ever be doing this. That contract reeked of, he's our guy forever. And when you put February 14th as the deadline date on guaranteeing roster bonuses, basically, you can't get to the trade area. You can't get to a point where you could do something to get compensation. So this deal gives him the way out, and that's why the agent got that deal.
So is this kudos to the agent, bad job on the team for even putting a deal like this together, or is this just a matter of they thought he was the guy and they were wrong?
They thought he was the guy and they were wrong. And they had no problem putting this deal together because they thought he was the guy. He's very talented. He's the face of it. And the guy said all the right things. I don't want to play for any other team but the Raiders. Well, he found out he does want to play for someone else.
By the way, since we last spoke, Tom Brady retired.
Yes.
All right. Your thoughts?
I'll tell you about my 7-year-old grandson. He was at the kitchen table doing his little homework, working on his letters, and the news came on the TV screen, and he stopped, put his face in his hands, and cried for 10 minutes. And my daughter sent me the picture, and I go, my goodness, I didn't even know she knew who Tom Brady was. And I called him and said, are you okay, Connor? He goes, no, I'm not okay. So that's the range of things that happened when Brady retired. And hey, I'm pretty sure he means it. The irony that he retired this time on the exact same day he retired last year. Weird.
Very, very weird to say the least. That struck both of us as well, Pat, that it was a year to the date of the first one, leading people to speculate that this isn't the end, but I think we all believe that it is.
Well, the money's right in Fox, and the Fox people, this better than anybody. You worked for those guys. I don't think they ever knew exactly when he was going to show up. Now it looks like they know.
Although Mark and I are both surprised that apparently he's not showing up even on set for the Super Bowl on February 12th. I don't know. Guy played in 10 of them, won 7 of them. If you're paying, I'd like to think $375 million can get a guy to show up, but apparently not. We'll see. He's Pat Kirwan, moving the chains on NFL Radio, CBS's NFL Today show. Joining us courtesy of Pinchers, Tampa to Key West, many points in between Pinchers because you can't fake fresh.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again. Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
You okay, Mark?
Just a little groggy today.
No, it just looked like you were. I thought you were trying to talk to me a minute ago, but
No,
now I see you're looking at screens or something.
I was just looking at screens, just
Yep.
finding stuff. No, I got my second shingles shot yesterday, and it has just made me groggy. That's all I can really say. I don't know what else it would be. I woke up in a funk this morning.
I was with Rick Neuheisel for the last 4 days doing shows with him. He's leaving today to play in the Senior Open somewhere. I don't know, in Phoenix maybe. That's where he lives in Scottsdale, but he won it last year. It's amazing how many guys he's played golf with. Most of the country singers. Oh yeah, I play with him. Yeah, I play with him. And so he said he's a one handicap these days, and he wasn't really happy with his middle irons. I was like, come on. One handicap.
Right. That's when you said, me neither, Rick.
I said, Rick, I'll call you when I get to that status.
Right.
That ain't ever coming.
You heading to Phoenix Sunday?
Yeah, it's a 7:00 flight in the morning. And thank goodness we're going through Houston, not Dallas.
Yeah.
Some of the guys are going through Dallas. Good luck.
Yep. American Airlines having a lot of problems.
Yep.
Go United.
I go United as much as I can. It just works out better for me.
But
well, Stephen Jones and I got into it about expanded rosters again.
He's against it?
He's for it. He was for it 5 years ago. And he said, we'll be doing that again. And he said, now I have the 49er game to back me up.
Yeah. Well,
said,
not only that, he's got the AFC title game. The Chiefs were down to 3 wide receivers.
Yep. So, we had a nice chat after. He said, he wanted me to talk to him about it. I said, look, you've been an advocate for the mandatory 8th lineman and the 3rd quarterback. So why don't we get to 53, stop all the BS, and make those 2 mandatory, and the other 3 are optional, whatever you want them to be. So the guys that have that problem, receiver issues, have them. So he said they were going to draw up something. I said, don't fail me on this, because this competition committee doesn't want to do this, and you have to look at the product and ask yourself, was that a good product? It was terrible.
Did you ask him why is there a single owner that's okay with paying guys not to play? I don't get it.
No, it's I told you 100 times. It's McKay.
I know that, but I would literally look at the competition committee if I was an owner and say, then you pay them to stand on the sidelines.
Well, first off, Steven is an owner and he's on the competition committee. So I said, the roadblock in your room. Forget your room. Tell the owners, your dad, to go around the competition. Just put it up themselves. And they can vote on it without the competition committee. But you guys keep listening to them who won't recommend it. Yeah. And now that we have 16 on the practice squad, you're never going to be short of 53.
No.
Correct. That's the biggest part, Pat. When those practice squads were smaller, I didn't buy the excuse, but at least there was an excuse built in there. But now with these large practice squads, it's a
and they're not just large; they allow veterans on them. 6 veterans.
Pre-pandemic, Rich McKay had a bad argument, but he had an argument. Since the pandemic and the roster changes, he has no argument. None.
And I will tell you that Steven usually will play there's two Stevens, the one on the air and the one who's sitting there for a half hour with me. The one who's sitting with me is all about it. I said, start a little momentum.
Yeah.
Make a statement. Get your favorite other owner to say it too.
Yeah.
John Lynch should be writing the proposal.
You're damn right he should. And not only that.
Hey, that was fun.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
It's 21 minutes after the hour. Our remaining moments with Pat Kirwan. Live from Mobile, the site of the Senior Bowl. Final practices today, game tomorrow. Then he heads to Phoenix. Super Bowl 57, Eagles, slight favorites over the Chiefs. By the way, are you excited about the game?
I am, because I like football. Take your eye off the ball here. This is a great game to watch linemen. You start looking at the offensive and defensive line of the Eagles, and then the offensive line and the defensive line now of Kansas City. There's a good game in the trenches here, and I'll be anxious to see how they try to handle each other. So I love football at that level, and this game's going to provide that.
With that being said, too, I love that Eagles defense, but Andy Reid should have some things to come up with. I'm fascinated there with what that D line is going to do, because I thought even if San Francisco had everything, it was going to be the difference in the game. So I'm excited to see what they can do against this Chiefs O-line.
Yeah, and the Chiefs O-line, Creed Humphrey and those guys, they're good players. They're going to think they have ways to get it done. Look, Andy doesn't like to run, and this is a bad defense to run against. So I think he'll have his game, and hopefully the quarterback, Mahomes, will be healthy enough to be the normal Mahomes and be able to not have to hop up in the air every time he throws the ball to protect his leg. So I don't know if it's a high-scoring game. I'm not really looking at it that way, but the more I sit here and think about it, the more I think it won't be a high-scoring game. I think both of these teams can slow each other down.
Early betting has driven the under down a couple of points. It originally opened at 51. The under, I've seen it as low as 48.5, but it's also in the 49.5 range. Since we last spoke, Sean Payton did not take your advice after all, and he took the Denver job. First off, did you think the Saints got enough in compensation? And then B, your thoughts on Sean Payton working with Russell Wilson, who has some similarities to a Drew Brees.
Okay, that's two big, meaty questions there. Yeah, they got enough. I mean, they got what they need. They need young players, and who knows? They might parlay those picks into more picks, which they're capable of doing. They need an injection of youth. The salary cap is working against them. The age of many of their players is working against them. So, yeah, they need it now. It's going to get 2 years to get those kids ready. So I would be surprised if they don't parlay the two picks, the 1 and the 2, into more than that, which is they needed that kind of stuff. Now, in regards to the comparison, it's funny we're having this conversation. We had it yesterday, Jim Miller and myself, along with Rick Neuheisel, and I don't see the comparison except that they were both 5'11". One guy stands in the pocket, Drew Brees, with that overhand release of his, and will throw from the pocket all day long. Russell is kind of like he wants to move around, and sometimes he felt like he had to move around. So their style of play, and this is what I'll say, if Sean's a smart guy, but if he goes in there and tries to install the Drew Brees passing game, he'll be frustrated. He's going to have to install the Russell Wilson passing game, which is mimicking how he played in Seattle. And I don't think Denver really was doing a great job with that last year. They were trying to make him something he wasn't. So be careful with Russell. He is what he is, and he's not going to change. Not at this point in his life.
Can he still be a runaround quarterback that gets it done?
I thought last year and maybe you guys will disagree with me, I thought he lost a step in his escape skills. He did not look like he could run like he did. Some people thought he was overweight. I just thought he was slow. If he gets himself re-energize and really focus on that part of his game where he's training to run, he might bring it back for a year or two. But Phil Simms says it all the time. No one ever gets faster, Mark. We always all get slower.
And I wonder if some of why he looked slower last year was because he was unfamiliar with the offense and maybe he just didn't know where to go. The one thing I will say, Pat, Russell Wilson towered over the coaching staff last year. He doesn't do that anymore. I think Russ is going to have to change. It's a guy who's got a big ego. It's a guy who some people say is not a good teammate. He's going to have to change now because now there's somebody who can tower over him, if you will, in the organization and basically be like, dude, you got to do it my way and we got to be successful or else you're the failure, not me.
I agree with that. They would have made a huge mistake if they didn't bring in someone of Sean's status. I didn't think Sean was going to be interested in this job, but he's there now. And you're right. Russell is not going to have the opportunity to have an opinion. He kind of, if Sean wants one, he can get one from him, but he's going to tell him what to do. Sean's got a nice way with the quarterback. He's a quarterback himself, and he knows how they should be treated. He's not a tyrant in any way, shape, or form, but it will be his way.
Anybody going to take the Arizona job, Pat? I mean, I know there's only 32 of these, but it doesn't seem like anybody wants to coach in Arizona.
That's a scary proposition, but I think either a young guy that's never been a head coach, he will turn it down, or maybe Brian Flores, one of those guys. So someone's going to take it, but it's a high risk job. Now, I do like the owner. He's a good guy. He's not fun to work with, and he's not nuts like some of the guys, but I don't think a veteran guy would look at that job as anything but a graveyard for his career.
If you were just hired as the new GM in Arizona, do you go get like a Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz type veteran quarterback who probably doesn't have a starting job for him anywhere else, but I can give you one here in Arizona for at least the first half of the year because Kyler Murray's hurt and is not going to be available? Is that what you would do at quarterback?
I think you have to do something like that. The fans, they've had a terrible home record. Go look at the home record.
Awful.
And now you know what that means. Season ticket holders don't want, and now they know Kyler Murray, who might have excited the fan base, for those who just like to see the kid run around, why would they buy a season ticket? So now you really have to put someone in there that can win games. The question, though, that you ask is a tough one to answer because the two guys you reference, which I hear you loud and clear, you're building an offense that has nothing to do with Kyler Murray.
Right.
Kyler Murray can't do what those pocket guys do. And, Matt says he wants to play still, which I don't know. There might have to be a different choice.
Where's your hunch that Aaron Rodgers will play next year?
That's a good question. At the end of the day, I'm still going to bet on Green Bay. If we were betting, I'll just bet on that he's staying in that lane.
Wow.
And it's more fun to talk about him leaving, though, because that's a more intriguing story. The boring story is the one I just delivered, but there's compensation issues. There's salary issues. There's the quirkiness of him. So I think he's the kind of guy that everyone would like to talk. Oh, what about Rodgers? And you can have all-day meetings on that. But then at the end of the day, you got to remember he's in the driver's seat on that. And I don't know that anyone's going to want to give Green Bay what they want for him. And who wants to pay him that kind of nut right now? And that's another thing. The sacrifice you're going to have to make on players you have to cut in order to have the space for him. I think it's harder than people think. And I've thought, I could easily plug a name on a team and say he'd be great there. Tampa Bay doesn't have a cap space to handle him. Carolina, the Jets say they want to do it. That doesn't mean anything to me. When owners, you're supposed to never talk about players under contract.
He's Pat Kirwan, moving the chains on NFL radio, weekdays 3 to 7. He's part of CBS's NFL Today show. He joins us twice a week throughout the season, courtesy of Pinchers. Pinchers, from Tampa to Key West and over a dozen locations in between. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. Pat, enjoy the rest of your stay in Mobile. Safe travels, and we'll try to figure something out next week.
Yeah, the time slots are going to be a little strange.
Just a little bit.
Yes, sir. Be good, fellas. Hey,
Take care.
Who do you like in the game?
Gut feeling Eagles right now.
Yeah, I'm right with David. Miller and
say
Moulton.
Say hello to Mrs. Moulton for me, please.
Miller and Moulton. Say hi to Mrs. Moulton from me, too, right here on the Florida Sports Network.
Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Located on the East Trail, locally owned Naples Tiki Bar and Grill is an outdoor eatery next to the Hitching Post Shopping Center. Island-inspired food with a true tiki theme. The best place in Naples to enjoy the beautiful weather in Southwest Florida. The Naples Tiki Bar and Grill offers a great menu for dine-in or takeout. Enjoy our famous pulled pork, huge burgers, and tiki bar cocktails. Don't miss happy hour every day from 3 to 6, and live music 7 days a week. See you soon at the Naples Tiki Bar and Grill, 11498 Tamiami Trail East.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
RCB, we will ask the former Puck Daddy. Just that. You loved the McDLT. I did not. First off, I didn't think the ice cold lettuce and tomato went with the piping hot burger that well. Also, I don't think the cheese, when you tried to get cheese on it, the cheese wasn't melted.
Probably my biggest complaint of a burger. The cheese needs to be melted.
Agreed. To some degree.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Needs to make that combination with either the burger or the bun and become whole.
The other thing, KW, if you remember, McDonald's was flying high in the whole deal. And then they have this big marketing campaign because they're putting a slice of lettuce and one tomato on a burger. And those of us who frequented McDonald's regularly were like, what the heck? This is the big thing? I do miss the snack wraps at McDonald's.
Oh my gosh. Me too.
My daughter grew up on them.
Mm-hmm. Wendy's had snack wraps too. They were good.
Wow. Go home. Lay down.
I'm going to.
Brown Chicken, if you schedule your workout in and around this show in any way, shape, or form, that's a you problem. We talk about food all the time.
That's a great question, Doug. Does your daughter cook?
Not really. No.
3 generations of non-chef Moultons.
No. Fortunately, married someone who does cook.
Okay, well, there you go.
He likes to cook.
There you go. Good for her.
Yeah, he's you.
That'll wear.
You're a better cook, but
yeah, but he's young.
Right. It's funny though. He made some sloppy Joe the other day, and he even said, "Yeah, it's not agreeing with me." I go, "Oh, I'd blame the chef."
Oh.
Now, can you take like aspirin or something, or
yeah?
All right.
My wife suggested cooking tonight, and then when she told me she was going to make, I just went, no.
Do we have
Wyshynski?
God almighty.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes before the hour, Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Thanks so much for being with us. We started the show with a hard-hitting question. Can it be a football Friday if there's no football game played this weekend? You know what is taking place this weekend? NHL All-Star Weekend. It's in the Sunshine State. Panthers playing host. And that's why Greg Wyshynski is in Florida. Senior writer of the NHL on ESPN, ESPN.com. You can follow Greg on Twitter, Wyshynski, WYSHYNSKI. Greg, it's David and Mark. Thanks for doing this again. How you been?
I've been good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, it is our pleasure. Listen, we got a question. We're going to take it straight from our Twitch chat room. Do the Lightning need to improve to go back to the finals, or can they just be the Tampa Bay Lightning and do it again?
I think the Lightning do have to improve. Yeah. I mean, when I look at that team and their status as a cup contender, you are thinking about the attrition in their lineup over the last few years. So, they won back-to-back cups, then they lose their entire checking line. Gord, Coleman, Gaudreau, they all go their separate ways because of free agency and the expansion draft. And they make it back to the cup final, but they don't win. And you could feel in that run where they lost to Colorado, the loss of those players from that lineup and what they meant and what they could give that team when they needed it. Now, all of a sudden, it's not just those guys that are missing. Now they're missing, Ryan McDonough. Now they're missing Andre Palat, who is such a huge and key contributor to them in their postseason runs. So I do think that they have to go out and find maybe a couple of veteran guys to sort of fill those roles. before they can actualize as a real, big time odds-on favorite cup contender again. And the good news is that they've shown themselves very adept at the trade deadline and finding the right guys for the mix. Look no further than Brandon Hagel, who they acquired last year, who this year has been tremendous for them. So I put a lot of faith in their front office to figure this thing out, but I do think that there are some holes to fill before the Lightning are really going to actualize as a contender.
Well, take the cup contender out because I know they're not, but the Panthers are disappointing this year. They, playoff team a year ago, President's Cup, and all of a sudden they can't get out of their own way. What do the Panthers need to do to fix what's going on?
Consistency. I think part of the problem right now for the Panthers is that they went really big all in last year, and it didn't come to pass. They traded a first round pick in a draft that is extraordinarily deep and very, very top heavy for Ben Sherratt last year from Montreal, and that didn't work out either in their path through the playoffs or in the players' performance. And so they've spent a little bit of capital already. They don't have a lot more to spend in improving the current group, so you're kind of rolling with what you got, unless you've decided what you got isn't good enough and there's a sell-off, and that's kind of where they are. Like, this is either going to be a team where the supporting cast levels up in the second half of the season, plays extraordinarily well, gets them to the playoff bubble, and returns to the playoffs, or GM Bill Zito is going to have to take a look at this lineup and say, okay, is there the opportunity to move one of the Sams, Bennett or Reinhart, to improve this team down the line if I don't think this group is really clicking like it should be. So it was going to be really hard to recapture the magic of last season. I predicted a 20-point drop in the standings for the Panthers. It'll probably be more than that at the end of the day, but they still could rally for a playoff spot in the East. I don't think that the wild card situation is out of reach for this team quite yet.
Well, they better rally and make the playoffs. My goodness, to have the 2 years that they had back-to-back and have the talent that they have and not even make the playoffs. I know the East is loaded, but come on, they need to be one of the 8. But at the top of the East is the Bruins, who up until a week ago were on a historic pace. Greg, for the record, Miller and Moulton thought the Bruins were a playoff team again. But this team got bounced in the first round last year. Where did this Bruins team come from?
I actually had this conversation yesterday with Andrei Svechnikov from the Hurricanes at the All-Star game where I'm at this week, and I said to him, dude, they're good, but they're like a juggernaut. Like, what happened year to year? And his answer was kind of the first part of your question is the most important part. They were always good. They were always a really good team. It's not like they've come out of nowhere to do what they've done. It's just that for whatever reason, the pieces have clicked together in a way that they haven't before. My own personal theory is that it was partially the return of David Krejci as their second line center. He was in the Czech Republic last year. He's a really good player. And not only that, he's a really good player that intrinsically understands that team and that lineup and those personalities. So it's the best acquisition you could make. Hampus Lindholm's a defenseman they acquired at the trade deadline last year from Anaheim. He's turned into like Bobby Orr all of a sudden on the team, where he's scoring points and doing all the things he needs to do. And he's really given that blue line a huge boost. And then the other thing is their coach, Jim Montgomery, who replaced Bruce Cassidy last summer. He's a great tactician. He's always been a great X's and O's guy. His system that they play has really reestablished the Bruins as a defensive juggernaut. Their offense, I think, is the big surprise, how good it's been this year. But more than that, if you talk to those players in the Bruins locker room, they'll tell you to a man that Jim Montgomery has reinstilled a sense of accountability in there. He's got the right tone with the players. And he's also kind of brought a little bit of joy back to that group, like a little bit of fun back to that group that had been missing with Cassidy there. And it's all added up to the Bruins being one of the best teams in the history of the regular season.
We already talked a little bit about the Lightning. Carolina, I think, has, I don't know if they have the goaltending. Toronto's really good, but we saw what happened the other night. Who do you think is, in the East, the biggest obstacle for Boston?
I still think it's Carolina, but the issue with them is less goaltending, I think, in the playoffs than it is offense. You look at what has really undermined these Hurricane teams. The Hurricanes, much like the Bruins, have been in the mix every year. They've gone on a hell of a run in the last several regular seasons, but had not been able to get over the hump in the playoffs. The problem's been the inability to score that key goal at a key time in a game or in a series. And they tried to address that in the offseason by bringing in Brent Burns from the San Jose Sharks and bringing in Max Pacioretty from the Vegas Golden Knights. Pacioretty's been struggling through a number of different injuries, unfortunately for them. So they've not really gotten a sense of what he's going to bring to the lineup on a night in, night out basis. Burns has been really good for them. So Carolina's got all the pieces and plays the right way to give the Bruins a real tough series, but they're going to have to find that extra goal from somewhere. And the other team that really intrigued me is the Devils. New Jersey's been one of the biggest surprises in the league this year, on a really blazingly fast offensive team. Very fun to watch. Defensively, they've really figured out a thing or two defensively too, and they've gotten really good goaltending from Vitek Vanacek. Might be a little bit too young and might not necessarily have the physicality necessary to battle a team like Boston. But the way they play, they're a lot like the Bruins in the sense that they are a team that knows how to dictate terms to their opponent. Like, we're going to play this game at this pace, and if you can't keep up, then we're going to beat you.
Right now, based on the standings, it'd be Rangers, Devils in the first round. It'd be Lightning, Leafs in the first round again. I mean, Mark, you have said for years that the first round of the NHL playoffs you think is the best playoffs going. Everybody's healthy. They haven't been banged up yet. And some of the matchups that we get now with the division lineups are amazing. Greg Wyshynski covers the NHL for ESPN, ESPN.com. Follow him on Twitter, Wyshynski, Wyshynski. Okay, why all the delay and intrigue in Chicago, for goodness sakes? I mean, shouldn't this take 6 minutes? Do you guys want to be traded, yes or no? And if the answer is yes, we're open for business. I mean, why all the intrigue?
Well, I think they're generally still trying to figure things out, Taves and Kane. And on top of that, I mean, there's also the fact that they've got full trade protection, and there's also the fact that they make, I think, $10.5 million against the cap, both of them. So even if you wanted to move them, you're going to need teams to get involved to eat up some of that cap space to make it worthwhile. Because, they're both... They're not. It's not like they're going to Arizona, right? Like, they're going to go to a contender, and those contenders usually have a lot of money already spoken for. So you have to find a way to also facilitate that trade. So it's different layers of reasons why this probably hasn't happened yet. But it comes back to the core issue, which is that, do they want to move? I was talking to somebody last night here at the All-Star game just about this whole Chicago situation, and it seems like the wind changes direction every few weeks for these guys, where it seemed like Kane was definitely gone. And then it seemed like maybe he wouldn't be gone. And now it's thinking, okay, well, it sounds like he might want to go again. And then Taves, it's more like, well, maybe he wants to stick around. He's the guy, he's the captain. He likes the idea of being the player who can help foster the younger guys that are in this lineup. And he's not necessarily looking to leave Chicago. So it really is baffling even to people that are closer to the situation, where these motivations are for Taves and Kane. And ultimately, again, it's their call, because they have full control over their next destination, not only for the rest of this season, but then as free agents this summer.
Is the West wide open? And can Colorado, if they get healthy, do they need to make a move to get back? Because the Lanch obviously have struggled with injuries, but it seems as if the West is still wide open.
I think it's wide open. I mean, Dallas and Winnipeg have both been jockeying for the top of the Central. In the Pacific, you have the ascent of the Seattle Kraken in what's been a pretty topsy-turvy division, with some teams not necessarily finding their groove. And in the Vegas Golden Knights case, just being decimated by some injuries, including one to Mark Stone, who's their heart and soul and one of the best players in the league. And he's been out of the lineup and will be out of the lineup for a bit longer because he just had back surgery. If he's not there, they're just a shell of a team. Like, he's the guy that makes it work in Vegas. So the Avalanche have every chance to break through and make it back to the Cup final, I think, if they can get a little bit healthier. Gabe Landeskog still out of the lineup. It's expected that he could be one of those guys that stays on injured reserve until the playoffs start, just so they can have the extra cap space. And that cap space is going to be key, because even before the beginning of the season and all these injuries, the big question for the Avalanche was, how do they replace Nazem Kadri as their second line center? Kadri signed with the Calgary Flames in the offseason after they won the Cup. And they tried to put in a rookie, Alex Newhook, to kind of be the person to replace Kadri. That didn't really work out. He's still had a pretty decent season, but he's not been that guy. He's not ready to be that guy yet. So for the Avalanche to really, ratchet it up and get back to the Cup final, I do think they need to make a trade for a center at the deadline. And if that happens and it's the right fit, we could be talking about the Avalanche trying to potentially go back to back.
Right now, tied for the final playoff spot out west, the teams who were the two best last year out west, Colorado and Calgary. That's how hockey regular seasons go. I'm just going to throw this out there, Greg. How about JT Miller? I mean, Vancouver's has already started the sell-off. How about Miller? Isn't he in the final year of a deal? Wouldn't that be a perfect second-line center acquisition for the Avs?
Well, he actually re-signed with Vancouver last summer. It was a contract that had some people wondering exactly why it happened, because he is a veteran guy. They gave him a very, very big, long contract. And in fact, there's a thought that the contract they handed him is one of the reasons why they couldn't find financial ground with Bo Horvat, who was just traded to the New York Islanders.
All right.
That's he's a very talented player, and he definitely puts up really good numbers. But the cap hit that he's going to start earning after this season, I think is a bit inflated for some teams. And then honestly, there's always been a little bit of scuttlebutt about his demeanor and ability to build lasting bonds in the locker room with his teammates, let's say. So, the idea of adding him to a mix like Colorado, which is a really tight room, I'm not necessarily sure if that's the best decision for them.
Well, Greg, thanks for joining us, and enjoy the beginning of Gary Bettman's second 30-year run as commissioner.
Yeah. If you want a trip down memory lane, we have a story on ESPN.com about Bettman and the last 30 years and the key moments in those 30 years. It's been a very exciting and varied run for him. And don't forget tonight, boys, skills competition on ESPN tonight. It's going to be a real fun show. Alex Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby working together in the trick shot competition. They're like buddies now. It's crazy.
All right. I like it. Enjoy what we like to call hockey weather in Florida, Greg.
Oh, Jesus. My face is literally the color of marinara sauce right now. It's terrible. I did not apply anything to my face yesterday at the Fan Fest. It's embarrassing. I'm going to go on the air on Saturday. I'm going to look like Rocket Raccoon.
No makeup needed. Greg, as always, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
Take care.
Greg Wyshynski.
I'm sorry. I can't help it. Come down here. It's 82 degrees. You don't put sunscreen on. You're pasty white. That's what you get.
Yep, absolutely. Didn't check the weather before traveling. Done it before. We've all done it. Follow him on Twitter, Wyshynski, WYSHYNSKI. Former Puck Daddy. He's done a great job for many a year covering the NHL.
You watching any of the skills tonight?
I might actually. It's pouring. I think we're going to do things during the day. Yeah, I might. Miller and Moulton. Thanks for listening, Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get